the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah Saab. I think it's very important what he said. India is not a unitary state. The Constituent Assembly of India did not design India as a unitary state. It was not quite a federal system in the way we know federal systems elsewhere, but it was, let's say, semi-federal or quasi-federal. But in this, over time, the diversities have developed, unevenness has developed, pluralism has developed, and we in the South are very familiar with these issues, namely the issues of state rights, but whatever name you call it, state autonomy, state rights, and so on. State rights have come under pressure, have come under assault over decades in India, and the South is no stranger to that experience. There has been resistance, of course, to these assaults. It was not just the BJP government which did it. The Congress government also, the union government, when the Congress was in power, did many things that went against the rights of states, including the use of the power to dismiss elected state governments and so on. But we must say, in all honesty, that we have not faced a crisis of federalism the way we have seen it since 2014, when absolutely no respect has been paid to state rights. And at the center of this was the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which unconstitutionally, in my opinion, was reduced to the status of a union territory. And of course, I don't have to say more because it was very clearly, thoughtfully put across in that interaction by the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. I know his father, Farooq Saab. I didn't know his grandfather. And I've participated in discussions where state rights and state autonomy has figured fruitfully in the past, including in Chennai. That's the first thing I want to say about this, and I join in the eloquent appreciation expressed by Lady earlier for what went on here, particularly for the qualities that I really want to, on behalf of the huddle, on behalf of the Hindu, I want to thank Chief Minister Omar for being here, for his bravery, for his, don't age too fast. That's what we want to say to you about the importance of news media, professional news media or curated news media. It's wonderful to see this turnout in Bengaluru. I think Bengaluru is the capital of many things for India. It's in terms of the new economy. No center in India has surpassed Bengaluru. It's cosmopolitan. It's looking for ideas. It's been through a lot of turbulence and uncertainty in the past, but now you have some kind of stability. A change has taken place, and I think people are coming here to look for new ideas, to see what innovations are on offer, and so on. So I think in this context, I want to assert, not just on behalf of the Hindu, but on behalf of the institution of the press, not the social media, although it can give you some useful things or even valuable things. It has been overwhelmed by the phenomenon of misinformation and disinformation, weaponized on digital platforms, on social media platforms. I think on WhatsApp, you need to be very, very careful, Chief Minister Omar, because the amount of toxicity carried within WhatsApp's groups has been well documented and studied. So you need security systems to do this. But we are very familiar with trolling. We are familiar with how women's voices are attacked viciously on social media. The lies that circulate, particularly in Tamil Nadu, I see it quite a lot, even facts, the complete falsehoods on the social media, alongside some useful things. We have to strike a balance here. And in this context, I think the role of the professional media, the legacy media, also the new digital offerings like The Wire, Scroll, and various others that have come up. I think this is going to be very important. And in this context is where the huddle comes in, opening it up. Because the role of the media, what is the role that we play? The credible information function. 2, a critical function, analytical, investigative, thoughtful. 3, an agenda-building function. We hope a virtuous agenda. You can have propaganda, as we have on many TV channels today, but you also have an educative role, a role of, helping the polity frame issues, put the focus on things that matter, the kind of things that Chief Minister Omar Abdullah talked about, development, tackling the problem of unemployment, saving the lives of innocents, of providing security to them, giving them hope, educational opportunities, and so on, and above all, giving them freedoms, democratic freedoms. So I think this is where the media, the curated media or the professional media play a role, and that is where we come in alongside our colleagues in the Times of India, in the Indian Express, the New Indian Express, in the Deccan Herald, and in hundreds of Indian language media organizations. We are all together on this, whatever our competition in particular markets. I think that has to be highlighted, and that's one of the messages that I think the huddle takes to people, and I can think of no better city where it can be hosted than Bengaluru. Finally, I want to touch on, there's not much time here to discuss it, but over the next 1.5 days, we're going to hear a lot about these issues, I hope. And that is the world in turbulence. Recently, China's President Xi Jinping, and Russia's President Vladimir Putin issued a joint statement after the summit on May 20th. And a key phrase from that, the declaration was, the global peace and development agenda is facing new risks and challenges, and there's a danger of fragmentation of the international community and a return to the law of the jungle. That maybe seems like an exaggerated phrase, exaggeration of what is happening, but that is exactly what is happening. The law of the jungle is now in operation. I wouldn't say in full play. There are still constraints. There are still attempts to bring about peace and some kind of settlement. But I think this is a reality. And India is caught in the midst of it. I don't think the government of India has fared very well in standing up to these pressures. We have not taken a position of true independence or non-alignment. India has come under pressure and has given in on some of this. I don't want to enter into too many details here, but it is important that we preserve our independence. And clearly the most consequential shift that we are witnessing now is that the international cooperative architecture built over 8 decades, however imperfect it was, is fracturing, has already fractured. Cooperative mechanisms have crumbled. Governments have retreated from multilateral frameworks, and a contested multipolar landscape is emerging where confrontation is the rule and collaboration or cooperation the exception. And trust is in decline. Chief among this, of course, is President Donald Trump of the United States. As an essay in The Economist late last year pointed out, an essay written by its editor-in-chief, and I quote, "In global politics, 2025 was the year when an old order ended. President Donald Trump demolished decades-old norms and institutions as dramatically as he set about reshaping the White House. His tariffs bludgeoned the multilateral trade system, the machinery of international diplomacy, from the UN to foreign aid, was hit by American funding cuts. Long-standing security alliances were refashioned into more transactional relationships. At home, Mr. Trump unleashed the most expansive assertion of executive power in a century. Soldiers were sent into the Democrat-run cities, universities brought to heel with threats and funding cuts, the independence of the Federal Reserve attacked, and the machinery of government deployed against the president's force, and so on. And the other thing here is, this was written before the outrageous attack on Iran happened. And I'm glad that Chief Minister Omar Abdullah mentioned it. I didn't know there were so many students in Iran. That's a new thing we learned here. But whatever you think about the regime in Iran, its sovereignty was attacked. Before that, Israel conducted a genocidal attack on the people of Gaza. It's still going on, and also in Lebanon and elsewhere, and on Iran. The US-Israeli attack on Iran, it looked like it would be a walkover initially for those who didn't know Iran. But I remember an editorial in The Economist which said that the US has claimed that Iran has been its military power has been eliminated. And then the editorial went on to say that 0% has been able to cause tremendous turmoil all over the world in terms of prices, energy prices, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, what is happening there, shipping, in terms of inflation and so on. So I think this is a war that the US wants to end more than Iran does at this point of time, paradoxically. And these are things that are happening before us. We don't know what end is in sight to all this, except that we know that the FIFA World Cup is going to be held very soon. It will begin later this month. And Donald Trump needs this to end because the Iranians will also be, I believe, will be participating and in this. So it's a very uncertain time before us, and we need more than ever discussions of the kind, open discussions, free discussions, moderated discussions, intelligent discussions, courageous discussions that we hope will take place over the next several sessions in this huddle. Thank you.